Howard tried to get it in, but before the pass could even land, Lexi Hull anticipated the angle, stepped into the lane, and snatched the ball clean. In one swift motion, she gave the Indiana Fever what they'd been chasing for nearly a decade, a ticket to the WNBA Semifinals. It wasn't just a steal. It was the exclamation point on a season defined by injuries, doubt, and constant uphill battles. And somehow, this shorthanded group, patched together with grit and willpower, stood on the doorstep of history and walked right through. Let's call it for what it really was. A gut check game. Win or go home. 6 players injured, frustration boiling from officiating controversies earlier in the series, and a roster that had been stretched thin all season long. The Fever didn't have a cushion, didn't have the luxury of star depth to lean on, and didn't have time to play it safe. What they did have was fight. And in Game 3 against the Atlanta Dream, they proved that sometimes fight is more powerful than anything else. With Kelsey Mitchell attacking down the stretch, Aaliyah Boston grinding inside, and Lexi Hull making the play of her life, the Fever erased years of pain and advanced to the semifinals for the first time since 2015. The last time Indiana made it this far, Tamika Catchings was still the heart of the franchise. Natasha Howard was just beginning her WNBA journey, and Stephanie White was at the helm during her first stint as head coach. That was 10 years ago. A different era of the league, a different era of the Fever. Since then, fans had waited year after year, watching seasons collapse under the weight of rebuilding. That history hung heavy when Indiana walked into Game 3. This wasn't just about basketball. This was about proving they could climb out of the shadows of the past and stand tall again. But the odds? They couldn't have been steeper. Caitlin Clark sidelined, Sophie Cunningham out, Sydney Colson unavailable, Chloe Beebe, Ari McDonald, Dearest Dantas all gone. That list of injuries wasn't just long, it was crippling. Entire rotations erased. Scoring options stripped away. Most teams would have folded under that kind of pressure, especially in a playoff environment. Indiana didn't. Instead, they embraced the doubt. They carried themselves with the kind of desperation only a team with nothing to lose can summon. And that desperation turned into resilience. Pre-game interviews told you everything. Kelsey Mitchell looked locked in, almost too calm, like she knew she had to shoulder the scoring load and was ready for it. Aaliyah Boston spoke with quiet confidence, prepared to battle down low against size and strength, knowing every possession would matter. Their words weren't about excuses or injuries. They were about opportunity. And when the ball went up, that mentality spilled onto the court. The start was bumpy. Atlanta looked fresher, sharper, fueled by their home crowd. The Gateway Center Arena was electric, eager to see Indiana collapse under the noise. And for stretches, it seemed like the Fever might do just that. Atlanta pushed, prodded, and pressed, and Indiana felt the pressure. But each time the game threatened to slip, someone in white and red stepped up. Kelsey Mitchell was relentless. Defenders crowded her, loading the paint, trying to trap her off screens. She didn't flinch. She attacked anyway, weaving through traffic, burying tough jumpers, and hitting shots that most guards wouldn't dare attempt in hostile territory. By the time halftime arrived, she had 19 points, the lifeline Indiana needed to keep pace. She finished with 24, the steady pulse that kept them alive. Inside, Aaliyah Boston was writing her own story. Matched against Bree Jones, who had the size advantage, Boston leaned on skill and positioning. She absorbed contact, battled for every rebound, and delivered big buckets when the Fever needed them most. Her 14 points, 12 rebounds, and 6 assists weren't just numbers. They were proof of composure under fire. She anchored Indiana's defense while orchestrating offense through smart passes and patience. For a second-year player to handle that kind of pressure, it spoke volumes about her maturity. Natasha Howard was everywhere, doing the kind of work that doesn't always show in highlight reels but changes games. Loose balls, tipped passes, defensive contests, her fingerprints were all over the night. Odyssey Sims brought a different spark, slashing into the lane, absorbing contact, and adding 16 points with 8 assists. For a mid-season pickup, she looked like she had been with the Fever forever, providing leadership and grit when it mattered most. Brianna Turner stepped in like the professional she's always been, blocking shots, contesting looks, and holding the defense together when foul trouble threatened to undo Indiana's rotations. And Aerial Powers, limited minutes, maximum impact. Diving on the floor, forcing turnovers, raising the intensity in every possession she played. Piece by piece, it became clear this wasn't about one star carrying the team. It was about every player grabbing hold of the rope and pulling together. And yet, as the clock wound down, the Fever needed one more hero. For most of the night, Lexi Hull couldn't buy a basket. Shot after shot rimmed out. Open looks refused to fall. The frustration was written on her face, but she never stopped defending, never stopped hustling, never stopped waiting for her moment. Then, with under 30 seconds left, Indiana trailing, she got the ball beyond the arc. She rose, fired, and buried a three that flipped the game on its head. It was redemption in its purest form, but she wasn't done. With 7.4 seconds left, Atlanta set up for what could have been the series-winning possession. One clean inbound, one good shot, and Indiana's dream could have died right there. Instead, Hull read the play like a book. She lunged, intercepted the pass, and stole the season for Indiana. That single play wasn't just a steal, it was the steal. The one that fans will remember years from now as the moment everything changed. The final buzzer told the rest of the story. Indiana Fever 91, Atlanta Dream 90. For the first time in nearly a decade, Indiana was heading to the WNBA Semifinals. A team that had been written off, battered by injuries, and dismissed as a rebuilding project had proven they belonged. The locker room after that win wasn't just celebration. It was release. 10 years of waiting, 10 years of questions, 10 years of frustration, all lifted in that one night. Kelsey Mitchell clung to her teammates, unable to hide the joy. Aaliyah Boston sat with tears in her eyes, soaking in the weight of the moment. Lexi Hull clutched the game ball like it was treasure, proof that perseverance pays off. Veterans like Brianna Turner and Odyssey Sims finally had validation, knowing their fight and sacrifice had tipped the scales. And even Caitlin Clark, sidelined but fully engaged on the bench, joined in with pure joy. Her post-game all-caps message, "Fever Show," said it all. Head coach Stephanie White reminded everyone afterward that the job wasn't done. Waiting for them was the Las Vegas Aces, a powerhouse roster led by Aja Wilson, Chelsea Gray, and Jackie Young. Coach Becky Hammond sent her own message to Indiana. They haven't seen the real Aces yet. The warning was loud and clear. But for one night, the Fever didn't need to worry about the Aces. They had already achieved something greater than anyone thought possible. They had erased a decade of pain, broken through the wall, and proven that belief, toughness, and resilience can beat the odds. Game 3 wasn't just a win. It was the rebirth of the franchise. And now, the story continues. The Fever move into the semifinals not just as survivors, but as contenders. The challenge gets tougher, the lights get brighter, but if this group has shown anything, it's that they don't back down. 10 years of waiting ended with Lexi Hull's steal. The next chapter begins with a chance to shock the world against Las Vegas. If you're proud of this Indiana Fever team and everything they've fought through, let us know in the comments by typing, "I've got the Fever." Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss a moment of history in the making. The Fever are back and this ride is only getting started.